I'm having flashbacks, Peter, to the time when you went down to the Occupy Wall Street demonstrations in '08 down at whatever that park was on the part. You walked in with a suit. Yeah, what was it?
Zuccotti Park.
Zuccotti Park. You walked in with a suit and tie and a video camera and decided to debate the people on the ground about them complaining against the 1%. First of all, I'm surprised you didn't get, killed on the spot, but you had these lengthy, multiple-hour conversations I think people can still watch on your YouTube channel. I mean, I'm just curious, what were some of the things that you talked to people about? Because I'm guessing that minimum wage came up. I'm guessing that the 1%ers came up. I'm just wondering off the top of your head, what were some of the things, because you have a great way, Peter, of explaining to people who would normally be on the socialist spectrum, the welfare spectrum, the minimum wage spectrum, of explaining basic tenets of capitalism that make them think, maybe Peter's right. Maybe we should let this system play out.
Yeah, well, I originally did that with Reason TV, and there were all sorts of stations on YouTube that picked it up. I finally got around to posting it about a year or two ago on my own YouTube channel, and I've got over 2 million views on it since I posted it. So if you want to see it, you could just go Peter Schiff, Occupy Wall Street. It's on my website, so you can watch the video. It's unedited, about 2 hours, and I stopped because we ran out of batteries, and we were running out of light, and I had theater tickets that night while I was in New York. So otherwise, I could have just stayed and kept on going. We had a big crowd. But a lot of people have emailed me, and I still get emails now from people who have watched it, who tell me that they were liberal, they were socialists, and now they're not because they watched that video. And maybe it wasn't just the video itself that opened their eyes, but what it did is it at least opened them wide enough where they could do some more research and realize that they were wrong in what they believed about capitalism and socialism and the free market. So I achieved that. I'm not sure how many people in that park, if anybody in the park, walked away from that encounter, changing their mind. But I know a lot of people who were watching on YouTube changed their minds. And that was really what my target was, because I knew it was being filmed and it would be online. And so that was what my goal was. I mean, yes, I knew I was going to attempt to get the people in the park, but there weren't enough of them. I mean, maybe there was 100 people there, whereas millions were watching online. But the motivating factor in what I was trying to convey was that the people who were protesting, their sentiments, while valid, were misplaced, right? They were upset at Wall Street. Because at the time, right, Wall Street was getting bailed out. Now everybody's getting bailed out, right? Doesn't matter what street you're on. Everybody's getting a bailout now. But back then, the bailouts were concentrated to the banks, right? Because the banks held all the mortgages. Now it's all debt that's going bad, right? Not just mortgage debt. Nobody could pay at this point. But back then, it was just, people who had borrowed from banks, people who bought homes and had mortgages. And so the banks were getting bailed out. And so the protesters were protesting the bailouts, and they said this is a rigged economy. And I said, precisely, but it's not Wall Street that's rigging it, it's the government. You should be protesting on Pennsylvania Avenue. You should be protesting the Fed. Don't protest the people who took the bailouts. After all, if someone's offering to bail you out, I mean, you'd be a fool not to take it. Don't blame the ones who are being bailed out. Blame the ones who are doing the bailing. Blame the government for offering the money, not for the banks for taking it. I mean, anybody's going to take money if someone offers it to them. It's the government that never should have made the offer. The Federal Reserve never should have financed the bailouts. So my point was, that's who you need to protest. And of course, they were pointing to a lot of the problems in the economy, and they were thinking that these problems were the result of capitalism. And what we needed to solve them was more government, was more socialism to counteract the damage that capitalism was causing. And I was there to point it out that they had it backwards, that the damage that they were looking at, the problems they were describing, were actually the result of socialist policies that had crept into the economy. And that it was the socialist part of the economy not the capitalist part of the economy, that was actually causing the problems that they were protesting. And that the real solution was not to throw the baby out with the bathwater, but to keep the baby, right? Get rid of the bathwater being the government. So we needed less government. We needed to roll back government spending and government regulation. We needed to replace central banking with sound money so that we can have a real free market economy, which would solve the very problems that they were concerned about. And my point was, if we adopted even bigger government, then the problems that you're worried about would get worse, right? We would dig ourselves into a deeper hole if we followed what the protesters wanted. So I just wanted to
Which is
put
what
the
happened.
right direction to let them know that capitalism was their friend, not their enemy. That if they wanted a better life, what they needed was more freedom, not more government.
Now, were they also projecting anger at the quote unquote 1%? And did you also have to explain to them why they shouldn't be mad at people that have money, like you in a suit?
Yeah, I mean, that was part of it, because the perception is that if you're rich, you somehow got lucky, right? Or, you're just sitting there counting your money and you got rich by exploiting other people. Like, you're rich because you've made other people poor, right? And that is the understanding that people have, thanks to, government schools that don't teach free enterprise and capitalism. So yes, I tried to explain to people that wealthy people get rich helping other people, that's the only way to get rich, right? If you're a businessman, how do you accumulate money? Well, you have to convince other people to buy your products or buy your services. Well, I mean, you can't force them to do it, so you have to give them a better deal than somebody else. And you have to improve their lives. People aren't going to give you their money for your stuff unless your stuff makes their lives better than the money they had, right? So you're getting rich by enriching others. And in the process, you create jobs, right? In order to have a business, you can't do it all yourself. Very few people can get rich without help, without employing other people, right? But the people that you employ aren't exploited because you're giving them the best job they could find by definition, right? If I'm an employer and I hire somebody and they agree to work for me, because I can't force anybody to work for me. So if they take my job offer, it means I gave them the best offer that they could find. If they could find a better offer by another employer, they would have taken it. Or nobody is forced to work for somebody else. Everybody has the option of working for themselves. And so people always look at the options. I can work for myself, or I can take a job and work for somebody else. And to the extent that they take a job and work for somebody else, it's because they can make more money doing that. If they can make more money working for themselves, then that's what they would do. And so the fact that businesses employ people, those employees are benefiting from those relationships. Nobody is being exploited. You can always point to a low wage. You can go to Walmart. A lot of the people like to protest Walmart and say, Walmart is exploiting these workers. It's not paying them enough money. Okay, well, why don't they quit and get a better job? I mean, if they were being exploited, they would quit and get better jobs. The fact that they're not quitting means that Walmart is offering them the best job they can find. Well, how is Walmart doing a bad thing by offering them a better job than they can get anywhere else? Now, there are people that say, well, but they should still pay more. Why? Why? If the labor isn't worth more, why should they pay more? Because it's the customers. I tried to explain to these guys that the reason that employers want to keep wages low, it's not because they're mean. It's because they want to keep their prices low, right? So in order to keep your prices low, you have to keep your costs low. Why do you have to keep your prices low? So you have your customers, because the customers want low prices. So the customers put pressure on every business to keep the costs low so they can pass that on to higher prices. If you're just an employer and you decide to overpay your workers because you're a nice guy, you're going to go out of business because your customers aren't nice guys. They're going to buy from your competitor who has a lower price, right? So it's the public, it's the consuming public that are driving wages down, not greedy entrepreneurs. They'd pay their workers more money if they could, but the customers won't let them. But ultimately, who are the customers? The customers are the low-wage workers, right? The people who benefit most from low prices are the poor, are the middle class, right? The billionaires, doesn't matter what prices are if you're a billionaire. You know, you think Jeff Bezos cares? You know, if he goes and, you know, and wants to buy some clothes, or he wants to buy a cell phone, or he wants to buy, a television or an appliance, you think he gives a damn what the price is? What difference does it make to him?